Hello friends, just in time for Christmas, I thought I would read to you the Pennsylvania Dutch Night Before Christmas by Chet Williamson and illustrated by James Rice. I'll be showing you the pictures as I read the book. So the Pennsylvania Dutch Night Before Christmas. It was night before Christmas, und all over the farm. Nothing was schutzlich, no cause for alarm. The socks were all hung by the chimney just so, with the hopes they get filled up from ankle to toe. The next is snoozing without any sound, in their heads clear toy candies been dancing around, and Mama and me, well, we out in their light, crawled under the covers and snuggled up tight. Then from the outside we heard something fierce that made open our eyeballs and rattled our ears. There was crashing and banging, and could it be true? Did our ears deceive us? Or was that a moo? Then off to the window we ran in the dark, kicked the dog accidental, he started to bark. When we looked through the window, coming in through the gate, it wasn't Van Moor we saw. It was 8. Four cows and 4 steers, they were harnessed somehow, and were dragging behind them an old-fashioned plough. And there, just behind it, as sour as a pickle, was a fella we knew had to be the Belschnickel. He wiggled that plough to keep going on course. I think he'd done better if he'd had a horse. So duplicate and slow those 8 drummers did run, and he growled and he grumbled and yelled at each one. Now Jakey, now Becky, now Rachel, Hosea, on Menno, on Sarah, Esther, Obadiah. And watch where you're going, there's nothing unwiser than stamping your hoofs into stray fertilizer. They got through the barnyard without any hitch, and the Belschnickel grumbled and raised a big switch. Climb up on that roof now, and you make it snappy. You don't want to make me no more unhappy. Mocked off on that trellis, then to the porch roof, and don't get no ivy vines caught in your hoof. I'll get off a grishlick if you make me fall, so clamber up, clamber up, clamber up all. Like the chickens all look when to fly they are trying, or the mess kits are making when shoes they are tying. So clumsy they climbed up an inch with each moo, but somehow they made it, and it wonders me too. And then in its winkle we heard on the roof each cow that was wurching around, stumping its hoof. The cracks of the roof timbers filled all our ears, 'cause it just wasn't built for 4 cows and 4 steers. By now the kiddies had run in our room, frightened by all of those cracks and those booms. To tell them what happened I was going to begin, when jumpin' Susie, the ceiling fell in. Down came the Belschnickel plop in our bed, a few shingles making down right on his head. And then when we looked up through the hole in the ceiling, it was just a little bit worried, revealing. For there overhead was the 8 head of cattle, still stomping it so hard that it made the walls rattle. We felt as if we'd all been cursed and were hexed, and the cows would fall down into our bedroom next. But they on the roof stayed, and I wiped away sweat, then looked at that scary old Belschnickel yet. He had got to his feet and was brushing his bitches, holding a sack and using his bitches. He was dressed all in black from his toes to his hat, and he frowned and said, "Hey, what are you looking at? Ain't you ever seen no Belschnickel before?" Well, I had, but the others had come through the door. His beard was all scrubbed like as white as snowfall, and his belly so skinny it nearly was all. I couldn't help thinking that this crabby guy could use a few dumplings and shoe-fly pie. His eyes, they looked angry, but though they seemed wild, when he looked at the kiddies, he just sort of smiled. Then he wiped it away like he'd made a mistake, or for him, some Shih Tzu nap Mama should make. Then he asked all the kiddies, "Have you been bad or sweet? If it's good that you've been, then I'll give you a treat. But if you've been bad, then I'll warm your britches with one of my special bad kiddies' vitches." They said they'd been good, and for telling the truth. Still he glowered at Amos. He grimaced at Ruth. He frowned down at Abner, who just kind of grinned, and the Belschnickel leaned down and tickled his chin. Ugh, crabby I might seem, but don't you forget, I ain't never had to spank one kitty yet. It just must be something around in the air makes the kitties act better at this time of year. So his bitches he dropped, and he opened his sack, and he handed out oranges, yo-yos, and jacks. A dolly for Ruth, and a voters for Amos. We laughed as we watched him, and who could blame us? And finally he gave to Abner a teddy. With that final gift to leave, he was ready. But he said as he crawled over shingles and sticks, "I'll send over Stoltzfus, your broke roof, to fix." Then he chumped the hole through, up to his waiting plough, and he yelled to his livestock, "Get going in now!" Down to the ground, and without no complaint, until we get done, and the house is all ain't. They sprung up the roof to the yard way below, but they got stuck in nearly 40 inches of snow. And that Belschnickel yelled, brushing snow off his head, "Merry Christmas, you all. Now just go back to bed." And that's the Pennsylvania Dutch night before Christmas. Happy Christmas.